Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video, we are looking at ARM Holdings. It is time for another update. And in the previous video, I have shared with you a path for this stock that could have led quite directly to significantly higher prices, where we would have been still tracking an extension of this wave 3 to the upside. This interpretation has failed yesterday, when we have failed to hold internal levels of support. In other market conditions, it might have survived, it might have fully followed through, but in the case of the current structure, we have to assume that a more substantial top would be within the wave 3 of this large wave 3. This doesn't mean that we wouldn't still be able to track fairly direct continuation to higher prices. This doesn't even mean that we wouldn't still be looking to reach $1,000 within this overall structure, as the idea of an impulse remains a very strong scenario for this chart, right? We have already fulfilled the expectations of the wave 3. We have already reached the ideal target at the 138.2% extension of the wave 1, around $430. And we are actually still looking for one more high within this wave 3 before having a more substantial top in regardless. So what I actually envision for this chart is that even once we have this wave 3 complete, we would get a wave 4 and a wave 5. Then we would have this as a large wave 3 complete. Well, we would still have 2 to 4 additional 1-2 setups within this structure, which means we would need to expect the possibility of 2 to 4 4-5 patterns before having a more substantial top within this entire uptrend in place. So with that said, we see how we can still expect strong continuation to higher prices and how we still have plenty of opportunities to be captured in the case of this movement on this stock. And I actually bring one to you today because we have finally reached the levels of support for an internal wave 4 within this structure. I am tracking this as a wave 1 up. I have a wave 2 down, and I do not really care for the exact count of this structure, but I'm looking at this to be a wave 3 to the upside, and I have this as a larger wave 4 correction. The levels of support have already been achieved, the minimum expectations for such a wave 4 correction have been fulfilled, and even the proportions of this as an internal wave 2 match well enough what we have this in a wave 4, where this wave 4 could actually still be ongoing for a little bit longer. So in the case of this structure, I am looking to form a more substantial bottom within this wave 4 correction within a 3-wave pattern, and we actually have a number of different ways we could track this correction. But once we have a more substantial bottom in, I expect the path to new all-time highs to be followed once again. In this structure, I have also identified a falling wedge. This is generally a bullish pattern that would lead us to look once more, once it is complete, for higher prices. And it's not something that we desperately need to follow through. I also have an Elliott Wave Count for this structure, of course. And as I said, we actually have quite a few interpretations possible. But the main idea that I would be tracking in such a structure is that I would have an A wave possibly down here, a wave B that honestly could be even a triangle, I do not really care, and a wave C, right? This structure as a wave C is the important part of this movement to the downside. Because even if I want to track, let's say, a WXY correction, if I want to track this as an ABC structure, all paths really lead to tracking a wave C within this structure, which lead me to look for a 5-wave pattern to the downside before I have a full count within this overall wave 4 correction. So I actually go into a smaller time frame where I can more clearly see the structures. And one thing to be clear, I do not have evidence at this point whether we need 2 additional 4-5 patterns or just a single one. Because if I am looking for this to be a wave B in a triangle, it would fit much better for the wave B to have ended here, in which case I would track internally only something like a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5. And once I have this additional wave 5 to the downside complete, I would have my wave C complete, which would allow the larger wave 4 to be complete and to look for the next high within a wave 5 towards $450, something like that could be very easily achievable actually. In the case of such a structure, I would watch out for the levels of resistance up to the 50% retracement within such a wave 4 correction. I am looking, of course, for a 3-wave pattern as I am identifying an impulse within this move down. And I would actually argue that we have already fulfilled the minimum expectations for such a wave 4, possibly already having a top in, possibly already heading into the wave 5 to the downside. And as we are towards the end of the trading week, it might be that we might not even get that one additional low within the wave 5. Let's say perhaps today we extend a bit more within this wave 4, and then we start the movement down within a wave 5, but as the next week comes, the market may get a more positive outlook, maybe some bullish catalyst happens, maybe some bullish news across the world that would allow the bottom to happen outside of the regular trading hours. This is not a prediction, it's just an idea that we don't absolutely need this last low. In fact, especially within such small time frames, it does happen that you do not get that last low even during market hours actually. But let's not dwell too much on that. What else I am looking for is potentially the ideal target for the wave C, and I have a few ways I could be tracking that. I could be looking here at the 100% extension, which would actually be around $345–46. This would be in the idea that the wave B would have been a triangle. I could track the ideal target for the wave C in the idea that this correction, this wave 4, would be a WXY pattern. That would still be the 100% extension of the wave A. And that would be actually a bit higher, around $350, where we also have some slight structural support in this region. But I would definitely be watching out for these levels between $350 down to around $330, $334 for a more substantial bottom to potentially form. Firstly, because we have structural support in this area. Then secondly, because we can possibly identify a full pattern, a full count within this correction that we are tracking. And I repeat myself once more. We might actually need one additional low even if we follow through within this internal structure that I have shared with you, where we are looking for the wave 4 and the wave 5 to be happening right now, because I do not know that this is a wave B in a triangle. In that case, if it isn't, I need to consider an additional 1-2 setup here that would expect only the wave 3 to form a more substantial bottom with that additional low. It's going to be in a very small time frame in the end, and we will not get a perfectly clear picture, but we do not actually need perfect to make money here. So these are the levels, this is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and if you enjoyed the content and want to support it directly, check out the channel membership, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.